identified for black.
History is about teaching us as a people that we're at war.
I want to speak about the image of our people. We have to be protective of our image.
Our ancestors, they were oppressed, and we are oppressed today.
Good evening. This is Kev for the Jah and Kev show, and sitting to my left is my brother Jah, and we got a interesting show for y'all, a heavy show for y'all tonight. And since I'm gonna be more in interview mode, I started the show off, and I'm gonna be talking to my brother Jah about a play that he's written, and it's called Broken Glass. And the brother wears a lot of hats. I'm gonna say that he has his own school. He started his own school.
Yes, sir.
And he's a producer, a music producer,
yes, sir.
writer, and he's a playwright now.
Yes, sir.
I mean, and so we're going to talk about one of the plays, and we're going to talk about the subject of the play, and we're going to get into the subject. But
yes,
first,
sir.
Let's talk about the play. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing well, man. I've been busy as I don't know what, but I'm here and I'm ready to go.
All right, that's good, man. So what you been busy doing? Talk to us.
Promoting the play Broken Glass, running here, running there, talking to different people, just trying to make sure that they're aware of a subject matter that sometimes we sweep under the carpet, but we just need to really talk about the elephant in the room.
Okay, and what is Broken Glass about? Tell them what I know what it's about, but okay. Tell them what it's about.
Broken Glass is a production. It's a play. It's about truth, trauma, and healing. It deals with a young lady who was abused as a child, and she never dealt with the inner skeletons of what happened to her. And when she became an adult, she had a mental breakdown. So she goes to a mental institution where she meets other people who had different traumatic experiences, even the people she works with in the institution. So basically, all these people are dealing with some type of abuse, because all of us, brother, if you really think about it, all of us have had to endure some of the different types of abuse, which we'll talk about. And then it basically talks about what we need to do as a people to heal from the abuse that we've experienced as kids.
So we're going to be talking about different types of abuse, not just like child molestation,
exactly.
Things like that. Marital,
verbal. In fact, when you talk about abuse, you know, there's so many different types, but the types that we deal with in the play is physical abuse. Then you have emotional abuse, and you have sexual abuse, and you also have neglect, which is a type of abuse that a lot of us don't like to talk about. So we kind of look at those different aspects of abuse and to what we need to do about that.
I think the last one, that's more like psychological. Well, all of them are psychological. I can say that because they affect you long-term mentally, psychologically. So what inspired the play?
Well, actually, about maybe 20 years ago, one of my family members came to me, and we were talking, and she told me some things that happened to her as a child, you know, and I grew up with her. And man, my glasses fogged up, man. I just didn't know that she had been experiencing these things as a little kid. And so when she laid all the cards on the table, I began the process of thinking about, hey, we've got to basically expose some of these things. And so not only have I talked about it, but at one point in my life, a few years ago, I said, it's time to reveal what's really going on in our lives. And so the broken glass concept came out because a lot of us are broken.
How long have you been writing it?
Oh, it's been about 2 to 2.5 years it took me to write it.
Okay, that's great, man. And when is the play?
The play is August the 30th and the 31st at the Woodlawn Point Community Center, 702 Donaldson Avenue. Both shows will be from 5 o'clock until about 7:30 p.m. So that's a Saturday and a Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's coming up in less than a few weeks.
Yes, sir. So, yes, sir.
And I understand y'all have something going on this weekend also.
Oh, yes. We have what is called a red carpet event. Now this normally you have a red carpet event when you do movies. But Kev, I looked at the people that have helped me as far as the cast, and I said, I have to do something specific, something special for them, extraordinary. So we're going to do what is called a dinner and dialogue. We're going to serve dinner. We're going to have photographers there. We have the red carpets going to be rolled out. We have interviews. We have videos we're going to look at. We have guest speakers. So this is going to be a night to remember.
Is it open for public?
Well, right now we're sold out, man. It was a RSVP. It was a free event. Once we put it out, man, that thing filled up so fast we had to shut it down. So those who couldn't get to it, and we'll send you some pictures. We'll show you on Facebook. But those who are going to be there, I understand you're supposed to be making a guest appearance.
Okay.
There
I
too.
was making sure, man. I didn't get confirmation.
Yeah, you good. Yeah.
Okay, I gotta. All right.
You're gonna be. I know you're gonna be sharp because everybody's gonna. You know what the red carpet.
As soon as you said red carpet and you said photographer, I'm gonna have my makeup person on there, and I got my wardrobe person, and we're gonna come dressed to the T, man.
Well,
okay, so and when is that? We'll talk about that.
That's going to be this Saturday, which is August the 23rd. It's going to be at 500 South New Brownsville Street. It's at Greater Corinth Missionary Baptist Church, but they have an actual fellowship hall that you can go in. It seats about 150 people. So it's going to be a good thing that we're going to anticipate. But I want to say before we get started in the interrogation, I wanted to let you know, brother, that I am so grateful that you were willing to talk about this subject. We talk about many things, but this is really, like you mentioned earlier, it's not only touchy, it's something that affects all of us. And for men to talk about it, that's really deep.
Yeah,
man. So
we're gonna get into that, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a heavy topic. If anyone wants to call in, if you have anything you want to say about this topic, you could call in at 361-405-6111. And I'll say that one more time, 361-405-6111. If you want to be anonymous on the call, you don't have to give your name. I know they screen for the calls coming in. You could give any name that you want. We'll just use that name on the air if my brother takes the call. If you got anything you want to comment on, you could comment on Facebook or you could comment on our YouTube page. So we ready to get started on this?
Yeah,
now?
but I want to flip the script. I know I'm going to be asked a lot of questions, but just off the top of my head, I wanted to ask you a question, and you just fire at will. And the question is, Kev, why do you think? Now there are many answers, but I just want to hear your opinion because that's very important to me. Why do you think that we don't discuss abuse, and not so much one kind, but just abuse, period, as a people as much as we should? I'll put it that way.
I think some of that is we don't recognize what abuse is. Some people are put in these situations, and sometimes you have where you're talking to your friend about a relationship, and many people don't recognize. It's like that's abusive. That's abusive language. That's abusive actions. And a lot of times, even on the men's side, we get abused, verbal abuse. And, when somebody's telling us, and people for men, it's like, oh, stand up. Come on, man. And I think it happens on both sides in a relationship. There's verbal abuse, and people don't recognize it. And a lot of times, I think with men, when there's any other type of molestation, sexual abuse, they don't tend to want to talk about that. That's something that's shunned, and it's something that you just internalize. And I think as men, we internalize things anyway, because that's seen as a weakness. In the Black community, sometimes we may talk about something to our friends, but that's not a healing thing. And you don't disclose your problems with everybody. I think in our households, we have a lot of what happens in house stays in house type attitude. So I think it's a couple of numerous reasons that we don't address it. And that's going to be interesting, man. We're going to talk about that. Now you tell me why you think that.
Like you just said, a lot of it has to do with shame. No one wants to admit they were violated. That's a terrible connotation to say to someone. If someone asks you a question, no one is going to be open and honest to talk about it. Some of us are fearful. We're afraid. You see, but we have to make what is called safe spaces, like the Jah and Kev show, safe spaces that we can talk about it intelligently, and to talk about it in terms of where we can say, okay, what happened to you in the past? Although those scars and those ghosts in your machine, they still may affect you, but you have to be able to do something with those thought processes that come, because even though it happened back then, it may affect us psychologically. But that's when we have to take the healing and say, hey, you know what? It may have happened to me back then, but right now I'm in control of my life, and therefore I'm not going to allow that to continue to hinder me.
I think that it's a lot more prevalent than people.
Kev, that's a mouthful.
I think that I'm going to go out and venture to say that most of us know someone that has been abused in some form or fashion. And even as a child, I think the child molestation thing is very prevalent. And people don't think that it's prevalent in the Black community, but it is. And I think that that's just opportunity for people that think like that. Sometimes they may not even act on it, but it shows me, thinking about this show, I think it's a lot more people that's out there, and it's not just. I think is they look for vulnerability.
Okay.
Someone they could get away with things with
Mhm.
that they can't get away
Mhm.
with an adult.
Right.
Someone that they see as weaker, which is a child or sometime a woman. They see them as being weaker, and
Mhm.
somebody that they can impose their presence upon and keep quiet about what they're doing. And I think it's like I said, I think it's a lot more prevalent.
Yeah, and I want to share something with you too. According to the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control, we are told that 1 out of every 5 girls are sexually abused before they turn 18. 1 out of every 10 to 13 boys. Now, those stats may be off, but there's some truth in that.
Yeah.
That you just mentioned as far as how we're being abused. And here's another thing, and I know we wouldn't talk about this. Every 9 minutes in the United States, some child is sexually abused or molested. And this is a staggering statistic, you see. And this is why we have to have these types of dialogues to actually talk about, okay, if something, and we also got to give some pragmatic issues to help people when it comes to, okay, now what do we do? Number one, don't trust everyone around your child. See, we got to we can talk about it, but then there are things that we do. We put our children in that situation in many instances. And if your child starts acting a certain way around certain people all of a sudden, then you have to begin to have dialogue with that child. You have to tell your child your body parts are yours at a young age, you see. And are you willing to discuss when you spend the night over the people's homes where you shouldn't, but if you do, when you pick your children up, you got to have that discussion. All that crap about that's your relative, that 82% of those who are abused, they know they're victims. It's nobody breaking in your house, coming through the window, with a bolo bat, whipping you, making you do things. These are people that we know. These are trusted relatives. These are friends. These are people in positions that we give, credence to. These are religious people. These are educators. And we can go on and on and on. But again, I don't want to hog the show, Kev.
No, man. Speak your
but that's what's going on, man.
Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking. Now when you gave the statistics about abuse, we have to realize there are many different types of abuse, and so even though you may say, "Oh, well, this is," we think of child abuse mainly as either physically hitting a child or molestation, and there's other types of verbal abuse is big with children. People could say, well, I never touch, but when you tell a child that they're worthless, or, the verbiage that you use when you get upset with your child, these are things that the normal person has to think about, because it's sometimes like you'll do that with a friend, you use a couple of F-bombs and call them sorry and call them all kind of names. We don't look at that as abuse.
Yeah.
But when you're talking to a child and they look up to you and why did you flunk this test? I can't believe you did this, or whatever it is that they did to get in trouble, then you start verbally abusing them. That goes into the statistics of abuse. And this is something that we have to catch ourselves on. Or I may be at a friend's house and I hear them or see them doing these things, type of things. And the thing I also, when I just jumped in my mind, it was something social media plays a bigger role, because that magnifies the abuse. When I see these parents like, okay, you know what? I'm going up to the school. I'm gonna whoop you in front of your friends. That's one thing. But then when they have, I saw something. The mom was having her friend videotape her spanking. So now it's on social media.
Yeah,
and that's even that compounds it. People watching it, laughing and thinking like this. And it's one thing to say, well, I'm gonna whoop you in front of your friends. You're embarrassing them.
Yeah, that's true, Kel. Let me talk about the silent one. I touched on it, but I want to go deeper into it now. Let's talk about the silent abuse. You said, what is the silent abuse? It's neglect. When we neglect our children and don't provide for them what they need, when they become older, sometimes this makes these children become isolated, withdrawn, and they don't want to be around people because they've been neglected for so many years. They figure this is the way, this is life, you see. And not only the neglect that happens, we have to look at a lot of times when a child or when a person has been abused for many, many years, they turn to other things because they don't talk about the abuse. So they turn to drugs, they turn to alcohol, they turn to men, they turn to women. But all they're doing, man, is crying for help inside. And because they have been so mistreated, then this is their only way that they cope with it, which, again, this is why we got to have these types of discussions.
Well, is there a criteria? What falls under the guidelines of neglect?
Neglect is when you don't provide for your children or your significant others the things that they need. That's emotionally, that's physically, that's any other kind of way. Neglect is when you don't do what we should be doing for our children. For example, many of our children, they need to have the proper upbringing when it comes to just dialogue, as far as being emotional, to show the talk with them on a daily basis. When you don't talk to your child, that child is neglected. If we don't take our child to the doctor, we'll say, well, you say, well, John, you should take your daughter to the doctor. You're no good. You shouldn't be doing it. And we shouldn't, because they need to be seen if they're sick. But a lot of times we don't do a lot of things for our children, and then that creates this neglect. And then the child feels unwanted, as you mentioned earlier. They feel unworthy. And so then they become isolated when they become adults. And then we say, well, what's wrong with them? Well, that's neglect. They just can't open up and say, well, I was neglected.
Right. And I think a lot of times, if you think of the male child, a lot of times if he hurts himself, and sometimes we see it and we think on social media, like I bring up, that social media is a way that we get into other people's business because they post in their business. And it's something like a kid falls and they're like, well, that's what you get for being bad. That kid is needing attention. He's hurt. He injured himself. And it's like, or they say, they think it's funny. They told him, don't touch this or don't do that. And the kid does it and they burn themselves for the shock. And it's like, blah, blah, blah. That's what you get. I told you. And they think that's funny or humorous, watching them do something that hurt themselves doing something. And we yell at them sometimes. I told you don't do this. But if I just looked up the silent abuse. It says the definition is withholding communication, attention, and affection as a means of punishment or control.
Yeah, that's it.
And sometimes you can't, you can talk to them, you can give them that hug and say, that's why I was telling you not to do that. Don't show them, use it as I'm not going to cater to you. I'm not going to, nurture you right now because you did something I told you not to do.
Right. Some of the young ladies that we grew up with going to school, you see a young girl that's maybe 13 and 14, and we say she's fast, she's promiscuous. Right. Well, you don't know her story. You don't know what happened to her to make her fast, instead of dealing with why is she that way. Some men become homosexuals because they were abused and molested as boys, and this is all they know. Now, we don't want to talk about that. But in their mind, even though we can sit back and say man was made for woman, woman was made for man, and I get that, but because of their psyche as little children, it damaged them to such a degree that now they feel that this is something that they themselves should be doing. And sometimes we have to address that as well.
I'm thinking when you said that, I wonder if the homosexual community wants to believe that as well. That's a reason that some people
it could
become homosexual or something.
We gotta
because a lot of times their argument may be you're born that way, or they don't want to look at something that has been imposed upon you as an abuse, and that's an excuse for you being that way. I think they rather see it. I'm thinking I may be wrong. Like I'm saying, when you said that, it just jumped in my mind. I wonder if they embrace that.
I would say so, because everything is on the table in this discussion. See, you're not wrong, I'm not wrong, because we're hitting truths that a lot of times people don't like to look at. I mean, you think about abuse in forms of verbal abuse. If you were called ugly, black, no good all your life, MFer, SOB, and that's all you heard all day, all night, when you did something wrong, you knocked something over, you were called the name. When you become an adult, those things stay with us as adults. And now we think that we're worthless. And so we do the same thing to our children. When our children do things, instead of us talking to them like, I've seen where a child may turn a glass over on the table. And instead of the parents saying, that's okay, you mean more to me than a table, let's just clean this up. You SOB, I paid so much for this, you MFer. And we go on, and I'm looking like, what are you talking about? That's just, that child's humanity should mean way more to you and I than a glass or I don't care if they broke the table. But when you think about it, that person that's saying that, if you look deep within their lives, there's broken glass in their lives, because that's what they were treated that way when they were growing up, and they think that's normal, which is not.
And then you look at our community, the Black community as a whole. We're being bombarded with negativity from outside of our community, where others that look at us, they label us, and they degrade us. Then we doing it in our homes, we degrade each other. So then, or we degrade our children. So then they think this, especially when you put the black, you black, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
and it's like they think they're worthless, or they think they're less than someone else, and that's coming from someone they love.
Yeah.
So when that abuse comes from someone that's supposed to be taking care of you, supporting you, or other family members, I remember, I'm gonna say this. I'm not saying that I was abused as a kid. No. I'm saying that the color struck thing. And we all in the black community, we all know what color struck means. I remember having cousins and stuff. Now I'm older than them, but I was like, okay, you're the darker one. They call you names and stuff. And it's like, because they're in the community. And that's one thing when kids, but it's when you're treated like that in the family, that's a type of abuse.
Yes,
that's just, it's a lot of different types of abuse.
Yes, sir.
I was looking at obesity. They talk about you when, and kids, we always talk about bullying. Don't be bullying. But a lot of times when parents do that or family members do that, like, oh man, look at you, you all fat, you need to blah, blah. You got to think about the things that we say to people that could be hurtful, especially when we're talking about either a woman or a child.
That's true. And what happens when you have a young girl who's been belittled all her life, called nappy-headed, called ugly, and she meets this guy that may be no good, but he has the gift of gab when he says, you're beautiful. She's never heard that, man. Now, regardless of what he's doing, because she wants to be loved, man. She wants someone to love her. So now she gets cooked up with this guy that whether he's good or not, but in the case that if he is no good, you can't separate her from him because he's showing her something that she never had, which is affection and which is beautiful words, because everyone likes to be told something that's positive. No one in their right mind would like to be told all their lives that you're no good, you never amount to anything. And we've heard these things growing up. That's why this is a very crucial subject that we have to have. And again, Kev, if anybody calls in, the number is 361-405-6111. Let's have this discussion, man.
Yeah, and it was something that brought to my attention a couple of years back. And it was like the guys that prey on heavyset women because they feel like they're easy prey.
Okay.
And they feel like, okay, they're needing affection, that no one pays attention to them. So they prey on them and they think they have low self-esteem. And that was some of the things that you can create when you talk down on a child like that. You create low self-esteem. So violence, being violent with each other, that could be a result of having low self-esteem, especially not just for yourself, but for your people. You don't regard anyone else that looks like you as having any value. Then we have these problems in our community.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's so true, Kev. But and broken glass is not just for those who say, well, this you guys have a fiddle that you're playing. You have a violin. John, you playing the violin. Kevin, you're playing the fiddle. All this is, woe is me. No, because broken glass is about healing, man. It's about healing from trauma. Lest someone mistake what we're going to be talking about. It's about healing from trauma. It's also about loneliness, Kev. A lot of us are lonely and we just don't deal with our loneliness. It's also about race. It's about a couple who has a biracial daughter and she's neglected because one of the parents don't think you should talk about race. And the other one think you should talk about race. It's about a woman who is struggling with alcoholism. And this is why I like talking about these things with you. You get me going. I said I was going to calm down. It's because we sometimes act like everything is great in our lives and we know it's not. We all struggle, but we act though as if everything is fine. But yet most of the people that I've come in contact with in going to St. Philip's, I was telling you off the air when I talked to a couple of brothers when I was going there to promote the play, when I told them the concept, a grown man broke down and started crying. And I'm looking at him and he's like, it happened to me, man. He said, you're the first one that came. After all these years, I've been burying this thing. He said, I'm going to come to the play. But he said, it happened to me. And I'm looking at him and he's steady crying, telling me that those memories, they haunt him and he wanted to have more dialogue with me. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm so glad you were open. So this is something that happens to all, not just molestation, verbal abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse, emotional abuse, neglect. All of these things happen to us and we act as if that's why we are the people we are now, some of us, because we haven't dealt with those things.
Right. And like you said instances that these type of things happen. And the point of neglect is you leave your kids with somebody that they shouldn't be left with. Now people think, oh, that's the freaky uncle, the uncle that everybody whispers. No, I'm talking about people that's very strict, that's into beating kids, and they don't have the leniency of saying, okay, this is my kid. You broke my glass, and then they want to start, start beating the kid or whooping the kid or doing whatever. It's like because they may feel And it may be not anything really with the kid. It may be with the relationship between the adults.
Exactly.
Your mom let you get away with this. You're not going to get away with this here. I'm going to teach y'all. I'm going to discipline y'all. And I'm going to give y'all something that you need. That type of mentality. You have to be conscious of that.
Yes, you do.
You have to be conscious in the way you can be conscious of it. It may not happen in front of you, but you talk to your kids, like you said. Have those communications.
Yeah, and we have to look at too. We must keep extrapolating and elongating on this subject matter. And here's the reason. The reason is because when your child or my child or anyone's child stays over to someone's house, which I really forbid these days, but if they happen to do that, there should be some kind of dialogue, not so much an interrogation. Did anybody bother you, bro? But there should be some kind of dialogue, man. And that's going to prevent it, because I know that if you're going to talk to your child about the importance of who they are, their body parts, then that's going to make me have a pause for cause. But all this crap about taking people over to someone's house and leaving them there, and then when they come home and the child is acting differently, and instead of us looking at that to say, well, why are they acting that way? There's a reason for that. And see, children are not going to open up to us and tell us what's wrong with them. You have to be able to gauge. It's like you. If I do this broadcast and you're barely talking and I'm doing all the talking, I'm going to ask you throughout the broadcast, you okay? And you're going to say, well, yeah, Jah. And you're going to tell me, well, you know what? I had a bad day.
Yeah.
But a kid is not like that. So damn it, let's stop acting like these kids are grown, and let's start taking up for these kids, not just the kids, but let's start taking up for those who are in those positions.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone that showed up so far on Facebook page. Lede Bishop, Sakina Walaikum Assalam, Barbara Royal, and Miss Priestley, and Josiah. And I'm going to read some of your comments. Josiah said, wow, this is shattering. We have to protect our kids. And Coretta, I appreciate you showing up. And Barbara Royal, I appreciate you. She said, Barbara Royal said, neglect is also when families place their loved ones in long-term facilities and forget about them. They're left. Wow, she said they're left with total strangers, where they are unable to defend themselves. Some of their caregivers love them and take care of them as if they were their own. Yet they are. It just jumped on me. Yet there are some who neglect them. They are lonely, and the families has abandoned them. Man, this is touching some places out here. She said that's me right in the play, Broken Glass, which is also reality. Get your tickets soon. And she said, don't meet me there, beat me there.
And I know we got more comments to read, but I'm going to piggyback off of that, because she's playing the role in the production as a lady named RT. She's placed in a mental institution, and she's basically left for dead. You got all these religious and non-religious folk who talk about how we should help and visit people that are incarcerated or those who are in these different facilities. Do you think one person would come to visit someone like you? Would think they would. Nobody comes to visit her. That's loneliness, man.
Well, and I said I was heading home. I'm gonna say on two different things, because the job that I do, sometimes I do repair installations at facilities like this, and I'm talking about old folks home, nursing home. And those people are starving for family members, So when you come there and they look and they want to know if that's somebody coming to visit them, and it's like, is that you, Richard? Is that you? Is that you? Then it's like, you feel bad, but it's like, no, I'm here to work on this. I'm here to do this. And they start to gravitate towards you because they want to, they want visitors, they want, and you feel bad. And it's like, man, the family don't come. And then sometimes they'll talk to you, we're there working in their room, and they'll talk to us. They're like, you remind me of my son. And I'll be like, they say, I got so many grandkids. And I say, well, how many times have you seen them? When the last time? And they'd be like, it's been ages, it's been years, or it's my son haven't come, my daughter. And even if I go to people's homes, they don't have to be in a nursing home. It's the same thing. You have elderly parents or elderly grandparents, and they talk to you. They you come in their home to do something, and they want to just talk to you because they don't have visitors. And they talk to you about their family. They talk to you about the last time they saw their grandkids. They talk. So what she was saying, it was hitting on a lot of different levels.
Yeah. And there's a young lady in our play. Her name is Frida, but she's like many of us. She's inconsiderate. She has a cousin who's in a mental institution who has been abused, and she knows about this. The mother goes to see this young lady, But Frida never does anything but sits around and talks. She's too busy worried about a date. She's too busy worried about all these other things. She's so inconsiderate. She has all the answers, like many of us. We have all the answers, but we ain't gonna bust a grape, as they say back in the day. In other words, you just mentioned what I'm saying. These types of people who are left for dead in these facilities, it shouldn't be that way. And I'm not saying that as many people as we have in our communities, we ride by these places. These people are broken, man. And all they want to do is talk, Kev. Like you mentioned, they just want to talk.
Yeah. They just want somebody to visit them. And even they don't have to be in a facility. They could be at home.
Yeah.
A lot of times our kids get older and they start, ripping and running. That's what we call it. And they don't have time for the elder people in their family. And I used to tell my kids that, it'll make their day more than you believe if you just stop by and say, I just came by to see you. And I just want to give you a hug.
Yeah.
They'll tell their friends, I saw my granddaughter, I saw my grandson today, and he just came by. He just came by to give me a hug. And he said, I miss grandma or whatever. That means a lot to them.
Yeah.
And if you just take a part of your day, and they may not say it in front of you, but they'll feel it.
Yeah, they appreciate it.
Yeah.
And one of the aspects in the play that's dealt with is guilt. When someone tells you that they have been abused and you were right there and you couldn't do anything or you didn't know about it, now that you know about it, now psychologically, here I am, here we are going back to say, what could I have done differently? And so now that guilt is riding us. And it's like, now we feel sorry for them and we're trying our best to work through this, because that's one of the things that we deal with in the play as well is the guilt that comes from knowing someone has been abused and we couldn't do anything about it. It's like a father or a brother who knows something happened to their children and they can't do anything about it, but yet they have to accept the fact that it happened. That's a hard pill to swallow, man.
I don't understand that, bro. I'm gonna tell you, I don't understand that can't do anything about it aspect. I think when y'all had the symposium, that's what it called, a couple of weeks ago, it was a great event. Y'all had the crisis people there. They asked questions. They gave situations. There was a table in the back, and who was it? It was
the people that were there was the San Antonio rape crisis,
and the
Family Prevention Center was there.
And it's like they asked you to drop something into each. Do you believe this scenario was sexual abuse or rape or whatever? And they give you a little scenario and you say yes or no, yes or no. But the whole event was nice, man. But it had me in my emotions pissed off because I'm listening to these women and I'm wondering, where was the men at in the family? And I wanted the question that I asked when they were taking questions was, did you feel like you had men in the family that could protect you, that you could tell at the time? Or did you not feel that? And if you did have that protector, would you feel guilty? Would you not tell that person because you were afraid of what that person the reaction would be?
Okay, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
So that was my thing. I'm like, I'm getting pissed off at. I want them to write down on the pad. Give me a pen and a pad. You need a hit? Let me know. That's how I felt. Like I was really like pissed off. Like I'm like, but I don't understand people in the family feeling like they're helpless to do anything about it.
Let me inject something into what you just said, and that's a beautiful thing to say, and I feel the same way. But let me inject something, and this is not all the way across the board. This is some people. When a woman is abused by a man, when a girl is abused by a man, men aren't the people they want to talk to. I don't care if you have a loved one, because to them, if this person is close to them, when your own father, when your own brother, when your own uncle, when your own cousin, when your own friend, when these men violate a girl, they don't look at it the way you and I may look at it, from the standpoint of, well, they could possibly tell someone, because especially as a kid, a kid, they're not looking at, well, I'm going to tell somebody. Now, some may, because you're right, there's some people that have done that. But in many instances, a man is the furthest thing on their mind, because that's who violated them. So to them, it's like all men from that standpoint in some of their lives, they don't want to address the issue of talking. Like one of my oldest sisters was telling me a situation where I asked her the very same thing. And she told me what I'm telling you. She says, I didn't want to talk to a man because that's who violated me. So I saw, even though that may not be the proper perspective, she saw all men as the enemy because somebody that was close to her violated her, and she just didn't know who to trust.
And I think to cure that, so how do you cure that? I think the cure of that has to start before anything happens. That becomes the teaching before
Yes.
having those type of conversations. If
Yes.
anyone touches you,
Of course.
you know, you tell somebody.
Yeah.
If anyone, I don't care if it's a school teacher,
Whoever. Right.
whomever,
Right.
and if your own, and I could think with my kids, I had a guideline. I had like safe word, password type
Mhm,
things
mhm,
people say. But I would tell them, if I'm picking you up, I'm supposed to pick you up from school.
Mhm.
If someone shows up to pick you up in the family, I don't care if they say they my friend,
I got you.
they my your uncle, I don't care. And then they had a password.
Mhm.
And I tell them, like, if I needed you to go pick up my daughter's
Right.
job, I'm in an accident. Could you over there? Could you pick up my daughter? And I tell you, I say, Hannibal sent you.
Okay.
Like they're gonna ask you a question, say Hannibal.
Mhm.
That's all. And you don't know what the hell that means.
Right,
But then
right.
they're gonna ask you. They're gonna
Right.
say you're gonna say, hey, your dad was in an accident. He in an emergency. I need to pick you up. And they're gonna look at you and say, okay, so who sent you?
Mhm, mhm.
You're gonna be like, your dad sent me. I just
Right,
told
right,
you that.
right,
They're gonna
right.
be like, okay, let me
Right.
go get my jacket.
Right.
I'm gonna go. Then they're gonna go in there and tell the principal or tell somebody,
I
hey,
got you.
somebody's trying to pick me up that's not supposed to pick me up.
That's
I don't care if they know you.
I got you.
Because Hannibal was my snake.
I got you.
Nobody.
I got you.
So when you say Hannibal or something like that, whatever the snake, then I change the pattern. If somebody had to use it, we change it.
Mhm.
But I tell them, I don't care who it is, and I name people in the family. I don't care if it's your cousin. I don't care if it's your uncle. I don't care if it's this person, that person. If I'm supposed to pick you up, which I am, and then they there to pick you up ahead of time, then they don't know the password. That means they're not supposed to do it.
Well, that's good. That's good, Kev. That's good, because a lot of people don't think that way. We just trust anyone. And as a kid, a lot of times that's why we have an issue, because more people aren't doing what you just said, which is beautiful. You know, and even when you look at the playbill this time, I said to myself, it's okay to put on a play talking about abuse, giving practical solutions and all that's good. But what can you do to make sure that when people leave this play, they would have something to take? In the playbill, at the back of the playbill, it has different questions and different things that we have to say to our children, or if we notice things that's going to stick with them long after a play is over with. And it's practical issues, just like you just mentioned. You have to be able to have dialogue with your children. You know, you have to be able to engage with them. And I don't care who you leave them with or who I leave them with. There should be a conversation the next time we pick these children up about how was their stay, how was their visit. And here's the thing that I want to say too. We always talk about who picks people up, and that shouldn't be done. But I even teach my students, and I have girls at my school that's from the ages of 9 to 12. And I tell them this: when someone looks at you, see, Kev, this is how deep we get. I tell them it's called a strange look. If someone gives you a strange, uncomfortable look, you've got to talk to an adult that you trust, like your mother, your father. You know, when you go to the doctor's office, when you go somewhere, nobody should be touching or seeing your body unless it's the doctor and your mother or father is in that room with you. But there are strange looks, man, where some girls feel uncomfortable, how some men or boys, they look at them and it's like they're sexual looks, but the kids don't know that. But if they tell me or you or anyone else, so-and-so's looking at me a certain way, then I'm going to ask that person, well, what's going on with your eyes? Oh, well, it's nothing. Okay, well, I just want you to know those eyes got to be like, they got to be straight. So these are the clues and the cues that we got to talk to our kids about, even when it comes to, certain features with our face when we do things. Kids don't know that now. Adults know that. You lick your tongue and all that. Adults, older women know that, but kids don't know that, man. Yeah. So we got to talk about that.
Yeah, and I think even with our boys, we have to make them aware of certain things. I had people that talk to me that had questions about something that their significant other, male friend, would do with their sons. And I remember one time it was like, the guy was doing something and he was up on a ladder and he was saying he needed something, and he was like, "Hey, reach in my pocket and get my keys out." And she was like, what pocket? He's like, "No, he gonna get it. It's like your front pocket." And she was like, "That don't sound right." She told him, "No, you don't do that." And the boy wasn't like a little. He was like maybe younger teenager, but she was like, "That's not normal." It should be a certain guidelines, and I don't care if people think, "Oh, you homophobic," whatever. There's certain things that you're not supposed to, perimeters that you should not cross as a man, and a man shouldn't be feeling comfortable having another man like digging in his pockets or whatever, and he shouldn't be asking kids to do that. And that's how you gotta be. You gotta let your kids know, even if you can't cross all these things, but you have to let them know that this is something. When you see it, hey, that's not. You don't do that.
Yeah.
And you get on them and you address that.
Yeah, and broken glass is also it's so many parameters that we go around with this particular production. But one of the things that we talk about in this particular play is this: nowadays we need true friends. When you're going through some things, or when I'm going through some things, or when anyone is being abused or what have you, they need true friends. And in our particular play, there's a situation of what real true friendship looks like.
Right.
Is sometimes we talk about a true friend, but here we have a situation where a man and a woman are dealing with a lot of issues. And what happens is one confides in another because they know the situation. They know that they have some abuse that has been going on. And instead of going around telling everybody like some of us do, blabbing their business, spreading it amongst everyone, this person holds on to this secret for dear. They never go around and talk about it. You wouldn't even know it, but that's what true friendship is about. We always talk about getting a homie or a true friend, or women talk too much, men talk too much, we're so messy. But that play actually talks about, we demonstrate, if you look deep within the play, what true friendship looks like. And true friendship is, you have a problem, you come to me, you confide in me, and come hell or high water, I don't care what's going on. I would not tell what you're telling me, because if you want them to know, you would disclose that to them. So these are some of the things that the play deals with, man. It's just a lot going on.
Yeah, and a lot of these women can speak to this. When you talk to your girlfriend, a person that you want to confide it with your relationship, that man that's being abusive in his relationship, he wants to safeguard you away from your friends that's going to talk sense to you. He's going to be like, well, they're wanting, to break them because they're lonely themselves. And no, they may be giving you correct advice, but you shouldn't have friends that your significant other don't want you to have if they're good friends. If they're going to give you advice, somebody that you chose to be your friend and you see as a friend, and you feel like you can confide in them, he shouldn't be telling you don't need to be talking to them. Because what it is, he knows he's not doing something wrong.
Right.
They don't want people in your ear or your head.
Right,
and I'm talking grown people. And also they gonna tell you, a kid, that don't tell anybody. If you tell anybody this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, or I'm gonna hurt them, or I'm gonna do all this, and that kid will be scared. And you have to tell them that up front. I don't care what that person is telling you. I remember telling my daughter something, and I think I said this before on the show. She asked me about monsters. And she's like, the kids talk about monsters. They scared of monsters. And monsters don't exist. I'm like, yeah, they do. And she looked at me like, what? I say, yeah. And I say, but they look like regular people. I say, they look like people that want to hurt you because you're a girl. This look like people, like I say, sometimes they look like school teachers. They look like a janitor. They look like a police officer. They look like a family member. They just don't have the fangs and stuff that you see on TV. But there's monsters in this world. And also they are worse than the monsters you see on TV.
Wow, that's
so we have to talk to our kids.
And just Josiah said it too, on one of his comments. He said, we have to protect our children. And that's really the nail that's on the head that you hit it on. We have to protect our children. And you mentioned it too, as far as the preventative aspect. We got to have these discussions. We can talk about religion, we can talk about sports, we can talk about politics, we can talk about business, we can talk about anything we want to talk about. But something that we should be talking about as adults is we should have this discussion with family members, with parents who have children, so that these types of issues that we're talking about will be prevented. Because if we had a group that we met with and we talk, whether it's once a month, once every quarterly, we would be able to stop a lot of it, because now we're going to start probing. We're going to start doing, like, say, well, Kev, what are some practical things that we can do? And you would say, well, you know what? Give your child a password. See, stuff like that is what we need whenever someone picks them up. So then you say, well, John, what do you have? Well, it's these eyes, because I'm all into how people look at people, because men, we have a certain look. And when you look at a child, I would say, well, if someone looks at you, so now we have all this going on, man. And now on social media, you'd be surprised how many people will say that helped me and my child from being abused or molested or however they were treated, only because we had something practical. So we got to have more discussions like this, because it's about our kids and it's about those teenagers and those who have been abused. It's about, okay, now that it has happened to me, is it okay to talk about it?
Yeah, that's the next step I want to get into, man. When you feel like you have been abused and you have been internalizing it and you haven't went and you self-medicating. Self-medication could be whatever. You could be drinking a lot, you know, you could be promiscuous, you know, whatever. You're gonna do whatever you think is gonna, okay, I felt abused here. Now every time somebody talks to me right, then I'm going home with them, or I'm showing them attention, or whatever it is, however you want to act. If you're a guy and you feel like you've been abused, you can internalize that and you can be like, I'm extra manly. So now I you know, I'm aggressive and all this male, you know, aggression towards other men, and you're trying to prove that you're a man, you know, and all these things like this, because you're not talking about it, you're not seeking any type of help. So what are things that can happen, or that we can do, or that they can do if you've been abused or you felt like something you've been internalizing?
Beautiful question. One of the most practical things that I always tell people, and I'm not an expert, but this is just one of the many. You have to realize that what happened to you, and it's not as simple as I'm going to make it sound. It's not as easy, but this is where we put the chips on the table. What happened to you and I a long time ago, it happened. Okay. Whenever those thoughts come back to our minds, or whenever those thoughts bother us, put things in perspective. Did it happen to you yesterday? No, it happened to you 20, 10, 15 years ago. Okay. So I'm not going to allow that to affect me psychologically. I don't need any other type of religious experience. I need to know that, yes, I'm going to be honest. It happened to me, but I'm in a better position now because I can control that. Before I couldn't control it because it bothered me whenever it came up. So I have to start looking internally and saying, hey, whenever those thoughts come to me, I have to dismiss them. Not that they didn't happen, but I'm not going to say, well, okay, that happened to me, and now I'm going to go back and relive those things. And if not, you also can get further help. There are different places all over the community. Don't go tell your best friend or your friend, because some of them are not equipped. That's why we're going to have people and just paperwork there that's going to help people, because I can only take them so far. That's not my line of work. So there's different places like the San Antonio Rape Crisis, like the Family Prevention Center, like the Child Services. There's different organizations and institutions that's set up for that. If you need further help, that'll take you deeper than what I'm going to take.
I'm going to encourage people to talk about and tell whoever, because maybe you might not know and they may know. You know, they may say, well, I went to see this broken glass. They had help people. It's a number. It's somebody that you could call. So they may, I'm saying, tell as many. To me, I think you should open up. I think you have to discuss it. I think you have to tell people, and maybe they're not going to be the ones to help you. And they can help you in a certain way, but I think we need therapy, you know, in the Black community. This is something that we shun and that we don't, we frown upon. And I think therapy is needed. And so I think sometimes you telling your friend is a form of therapy, but they should be able to, and you should be able to tell your friend what to do and where to go. Don't think that you're a doctor or nurse, whomever, but tell them where to get help from.
I got one better than that. You know, go with them if they want you to. You know, I'm afraid. I don't want these people to know my business, but I've been abused and I want to be in a group, therapy session. Go with me. Go there and sit with them. Don't judge them. Go there and sit with them. That, to me, is one of the biggest things we can do, is be there for people instead of always sending them places. And if they need it, some of them don't want it, but those who say, well, could you go with me, brother? Oh, no, man, I got to go watch the Knicks play. No, you go with them to show that you're supportive, because that's what it's going to take.
Yeah. I'm a reader. Marie, I know you said this a while back. She said, Hotep Brothers, this topic is much needed and should be talked about in the community. I appreciate that. And Coretta, I appreciate you showing up. She said, we also need to let people know that it's okay to seek therapy.
Yes, it is. It's okay.
So, I mean, I have one of my good friends. He says, man, people, and he was in prison. And he was get therapy in prison. And it's like, you looked at it, that's a weakness. You can't handle this. Yeah, you know, it's life, man. I need this. And he says that he goes to talk to people in prison, talk about going to see them, like, bro, go to therapy, you know, because you're going to be damaged when you leave here. And then he'll tell you right now, man, therapy is great.
It's the best thing for us.
And a lot of times for men, that's even because we're looked upon as you got to be stronger than that. You know, and that's not the type of thing. I think you should tell kids to talk, you know, talk about everything.
Exactly.
You know, but make it so you don't shut up.
Exactly.
You know,
and you know, even in our particular production, when we have practice, you know, back when we first started, we had to put our scripts down. At one time, it was like lights, action, camera, cut. But because all of us have been abused in some kind of way in this particular production, we put the scripts down and we just started talking. And you would be surprised at some of the things that came out about every one of us when it comes to our childhood. That was a therapy session.
Yeah.
So it's not just about a script and lines, although they tell the story. It's about seeking the proper help that you need so that you can become the best person that you need to be. That's why many of us adults right now, we're struggling, we're suffering because something happened to us a long time ago and we never got help. And
Right.
we become the people that we are.
And I mean, you have to look at yourself sometime. And I think look at us as a people, some of the things that we promote, yeah, they need they butt whoop. They need their butt whoop. They need their butt whoop. And to me, I think I was talking to a friend of mine about growing up in the hood. And he was talking about spanking his kids and stuff. And then after you doing it, he's saying, "Hey, I love you." And I think he said his daughter told him like she used to get mad at him. Like, nah. And I told him like, that used to be with me. My dad used to beat me like like a slave. And then he'd hug me. I'd be like, man, in my mind, like, get off me, man. You ain't love me, because that wasn't love. But I was thinking also, and I probably did that with my kids. Like you say, those type of things carry on. And my daughter was like Lucifer herself when she was coming up. She was like, she was bad. She was just trying me like my skills wasn't that good, but it would mount, okay, you still doing it. You still doing it. You still doing it. But we could laugh at it now. We could joke at it now. But is that a form? It got to be a better way.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking to myself. When we said we was going to do the show, it's got to be a better way. And we think, oh, in the Black family, we do this and we do that. But one thing that I did say, you shouldn't do it in anger. You should do it in discipline, but don't add the anger to it. And that could take it overboard.
Yeah. 82 years. And, I'm just hitting you with statistics after studying this for many, many months and years. 82% of the cases of abuse in many instances, they're not reported. So the ones that we are talking about, that's a drop in the bucket to what's really going on. That's why the alarm should be rung now. Because I bet you if everyone that's watching this broadcast, if they're honest with themselves, and we're all honest with ourselves, 90% or more of us have been abused. Not so much all of us have been sexual. Some form, whether it's verbal, whether it's emotional, whether even in relationships, as you hinted to earlier, in relationships when we meet these women and meet these men, a lot of those relationships are built on abuse. It's built on abuse, but we don't see it. We see two people in love and that's how it should be. No, that's not how it should be. I heard this man and woman, and it bothered me, but I heard this man and woman that's supposed to be together. If you heard how they talk to each other, and this is not, they weren't angry. This is just everyday conversation. I could not believe the language that I heard between that's abuse, man. And so now when you meet someone that's nice and decent, you don't know how to treat them because this is what you think a relationship is, being abused. Or like some women, when they get in a physical abusive situation, they meet a man and he doesn't want to fight them. He wants to love them. He wants to show them respect. And they say, well, he doesn't love me because he doesn't beat me.
Right. I'm going to ask you this question with that, man. But just in general, do you think there's levels to abuse that abuse is what you feel is on the one that's being perpetrated on? Like what you may say, like in your relationship, and your wife may talk to you a certain way, and that may be y'all thing. Like, you know what, because I say this, she say that, and some people are more fragile. They can't take it. Just like say, like a coach of a football team, basketball coach, he talks to them a certain way in practice, and you stupid, blah blah blah. Some of the players could take that, and that motivates them. Some of them can't. Do you think that could be that's a real life thing? Like as far as what you may call abuse, even like talking about your kids, like we can make fun of our kids, and some people they get hurt, their feelings get hurt, and some people don't.
Right.
And, do you think that could be a case, or you just think abuse is?
That's a beautiful, beautiful challenge to me. But when I talk about abuse, Kev, I'm not talking about you and I having fun and you calling me something, I'm calling you something, we laughing and it's over with. But every time I see you, I'm not going to belittle you. I'm not going to call you out your name. So in my estimation, when I talk about abuse, this is something that is repetitive. It happens over and over and over again. So that's the ideal of abuse, because you keep doing the same thing over and over again. You keep doing things physically to a person. You keep doing things verbally to a person. Even when we become adults, we don't look at it like abuse sometimes. We say, well, that's just how we are. But those are abusive words if I call you out of your name all the time. Now, whether you see it as abuse or not, that's another ball game. But it's abuse from the perspective of This is something that psychologically keeps happening, and you don't know to what degree it affects me. Now, when I talk to you and we're doing this over and over again through the years, and I just say, well, that's how we do it. But then when I leave, you don't know what happens to my psyche after all those years of what we've done. Although in our minds, we might just be having fun. Right. And it's not normal for two men or a man and a woman to have a conversation. And every time we see each other, we're cutting them down and we're belittling them.
Okay, and I'm not talking about like an extreme, because I'm gonna give up two perspectives. I remember Adrian Peterson, and I remember the talk about like what they say he's whooped his kid, one of his boys, and he had marks on him. I used to have marks on me when my kids probably had marks on them when I whooped them. But the national media was like this, oh my God, and these people, I heard them like, and they were saying, like it's so egregious. I heard that they even whoop kids with a wet a leather belt, or that they make them get a stick, and we'll joke about that. Big Mama be like, go get a switch, and you got to pick it out. And they was talking like that's abuse. That's what I'm saying. Is it like a matter of perspective? Is that cultural thing? I mean, I understand some things are overboard, but to them, that's overboard.
Yeah, and to them, they have a different psyche, because when you look at it, if his children were disciplined, that's the only time I've ever heard of that, as far as when he did it. Okay, and if he did it is raising kids up, you're going to deal with your children in certain ways to discipline them. But if every other day or every other thing they do, they're being dealt with like that, that's abuse.
That's what I mean. Like it's not the actual act. Sometimes I think it could be like, okay, you mad at something at work, and you're taking it out on their kids.
Right.
You did not tell you to clean up the room. I'm beating your
butt. But you're really angry at something else.
You angry at something else, or you taking your anger out in discipline. You're not disciplining them. To other cultures, they may sit there and they may be thinking, oh my God, this is abuse. Or somebody saying go to bed without eating. And then, I see this on TV, like, oh, you know what? No, go to bed. And they tell the kid to get up, and it's another culture, and they get up, and now to us, it's like, man, you got to feed your kids. You can't be doing this. And we thinking that's abusive. Or they may think what we're doing is physically abusive. When we see kids act out in the grocery store, many of us know, we be like, we already know if that was us, we would correct that. They may see that as abuse. That's why I was saying, do you think it's different?
Yeah, I think it has to be levels, because different cultures, when it comes to how we see things, we do things differently. But again, in that little last illustration, if I heard you tell someone, hey, you're going to go to bed tonight without eating, I don't see that as abuse, because the next day you're going to feed them. You're not going to continue to starve them. That's abuse. Right. So it's like,
but now if they say that at the school, that's what I'm saying. The school's going to be like, oh, that's abuse. And that's what I mean.
Like the paddling. We used to get paddles. Now that's abuse. If you hit a person. Yeah. So you're right. But I'm saying, a lot of it has to do with sexual, verbal, emotional, psychological. Most of this is long term. Right. It continues. That's why broken glass. That's why we go back to when we were kids. These things happen to us for a while, and then it may have stopped, but the scars are still in our hearts. We never got help with that.
How do you identify someone that's been abused, especially say like a child? How do you identify a woman that's being abused in a relationship? Do you think that's easy to do? Do you think
it
that
depends?
Signs?
It really depends. If it's physical abuse, you can see the scars, or you can see the whips in her face if she's slapped or beaten. If she says nothing about it, sometimes you can look at their demeanor. You can look at the way they act, their behavior. With children, you can notice it much quicker, because they give you signs. If a child is eating all of a sudden and they stop eating, you have to ask, well, why you stop eating? Or if they're not eating and they eat a lot, you got to find out why you're doing this. If a child cries a lot, if a child wets the bed, I'm not saying every instance I'm telling you is abuse, but I'm saying it's worth us looking into. And it's difficult to pinpoint it, but you have to look at the signs. And as adults, we don't have a crystal ball we can look in, and everything that we say, okay, that's abuse. But what we can say is, I notice you're acting differently now as a child. Well, I wonder why you're beginning to act. Why don't you like to go around your cousin? Right. So I'm gonna start. That's
uncomfortable around people. You got to pay attention.
And I even noticed you're fearful too. If I mention your friend Fred's name. At one time, it was always okay. Now I say Fred, and I notice your eyebrows go up, and I'm like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
So these are things that we as parents and adults, we just have to look into. We're not going to stop everything, but the preventative measures is we have to be like a watchdog. We got to be on the lookout. That's all we can do.
And I'm gonna say this before I know we starting to get close to the end. I looked up when doing the show. This is something that anyone could look up. You could just look it up on site, and it's you can look up all the sex offenders in your area. And I looked up you put your it's a search for public sex offender registries, the National Sex Offender Public website. You put your address in there. They're going to know your address. They're going to ask you, can we use your address?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to want to be precise. And you could put your address in there and you could say a 1 mile radius. So I just put it in there the other day. There's 11 sex offenders within a mile of me, a mile, 1 mile radius. And I said, well, man, that's a lot. And they'll show you on the map and they'll give you their address. They have their faces on there and you'll see all the sex offenders that's in your area. So if you take your kids to the park, if you take them to the swimming pool, these people shouldn't be there. They shouldn't be at the school. And if your kids, to me, you should let your kids see their faces.
Mm-hmm.
These are the people that they have to walk when they're in the neighborhood, when they go into the playground. If you see this person,
that's good.
That's good. So I looked up a 3 mile radius of my house. It's not, you think it's your whatever, this you're in a bad neighborhood. It doesn't matter.
Right.
What neighborhood you in, the sex offenders, they got to be registered to be living in your community.
Wow, that's good.
It's 117 in the 3 mile radius. Within like me driving 3 minutes this way or 3 minutes that way or 3 minutes that way. This is 117 people. So this tells me that that's just sex offenders that's been caught.
Exactly. This is very problematic. And what you're doing is you're just putting icing on the cake that we're talking about when it comes to how serious this subject is. See? And we don't like to have this subject. For those who are watching this broadcast, the Jah and Kev family, why don't you scan this QR code and get your tickets? This is something that you should support. You're supporting something that's important because maybe you know someone, or like you mentioned, we all know someone, or maybe you've been abused. This is an opportunity to say, I want to give back to a production that's talking about something that's important, something that is happening to us as we speak. You just gave some staggering statistics. This is what you should do. Just scan the QR code, come to the play and enjoy it, and then take away from it what you can, so that when you go back to your household, you can ask questions. And along with those sex offenders that you was telling me about, that's in your neighborhood, in your area, along with that, ask questions whenever, and not just because you're taking a child over to someone's home. Always probe your children for answers. Don't ever stop. And again, if you do that, I bet you're gonna stop it before it gets started, as opposed to waiting until it happens. And then and I don't want to leave this out, for those silly women who the children are saying something is happening to me, and because they love this guy so much that they deny it and say, well, you put yourself in that position. Damn it, you can never put yourself in a position as a kid for a man to do something to you like that. And I'm getting hot. Let me calm down, because I hear that sometimes, Kev. So go ahead and take it.
I'm going to say this one more thing. And I hate that we didn't really get to expound on this. But when people sit up there and you have a pedophile that's an entertainer, convicted pedophile, and they want to justify you, well, do you think it's okay to listen to this person's music? Or that's okay, so-and-so did it too. Those are the people that pisses me off, because I don't care about how much you love this person.
Come on, Kev.
If that person went to trial and he was convicted, don't go. And it's surprising because a lot of women justify when someone has been convicted of a rape or sexual abuse or something because you like him or his profile or his status or he's a singer or actor or whatever and then you question the women. And to me, you're starting off with a bias.
Oh man.
And this is something that irks me because I don't know. Well, I'm gonna say this: if someone has some type of allegations, I'm not gonna one way or another sit up there and say, and I'm gonna say this either. Sometimes I see that what has happened, kids have falsely accused somebody of doing something, and that shocks me. And I've seen cases, so I can't 100%. A kid said you did this. I don't know if that kid is manipulative or not. So I'm gonna say, okay, I want to investigate.
Oh that. Yeah, there's ways to find out.
And like I say, that's when I see these people that say this person has been convicted, but I still want to, watch his shows and listen to his music, and they want to get at people that say I don't listen to his music no more. So if that was your child, and I always tell them, if that was a neighborhood person that owned a store and they did something to your child and people kept going to that store and patronizing them, would you be okay with that? See, and that's you're gonna be saying, no, he's
Right,
this,
right,
he's that. Don't go to, or you find out that guy's on the list.
Kev,
you know, you're
Kev,
gonna
we
say, you
talking,
know
bro.
what, we're not going to that store. You're
What?
gonna be all right with that, but because you like this
Come
person,
on, Kev.
you like they shoot, they
Oh,
shows, they
yes, sir.
music or whatever, and they've been convicted of this, and then you want to take up for them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kev, you know what? That's a broadcast. Now, y'all hold us to this because he just opened up a can of worms, and we want to. Because I've been wanting to talk about that for the longest. How we fall in love with these entertainers. We like their persona, and they can do no wrong when we know they've done wrong. And what I wanted to add to that is this part. I'm not talking about the part where you don't know whether it happened or not. I'm talking about the part where you have been convicted, and then when they ask you why did you do it, and then all of you idiots who say she had on some hot pants, she was flaunting in his face. That doesn't give him the reason to do what he did. And how dare we take a child and say that a grown ass, a grown man sees her in some type of outfit, and because he had no discipline, that she deserved it. Kev, let's shut this show down before I start cussing, man.
We appreciate everyone showing out. Come check out the show. He had a QR on there, Broken Glass, and I heard I heard it was great, man.
Yeah, well,
some people say they went to the rehearsals and they were like, man, this is good. So
yeah.
Peace, and hopefully we have a better show for y'all next week. If y'all have any suggestions, just hit us up. Facebook me, Cries Room on Facebook. Hit Jah, messenger him, and peace, y'all.